sabe, esses sons começam a tocar. Noites encharcadas de suor e lutas estrondosas me puxam de volta ao cinza. Com medo de falar sobre esses demônios, minha sanidade é um fio. Às vezes parece cada momento parecia um inferno. Ajoelhar-se para orar por luz, em seguida praguejando através do céu. Não há como escapar das memórias que me assombram até o âmago. Quando voltei para casa, ainda verifiquei todas as portas. Ainda, e Bagdá, não consigo me livrar dessa luta. Ainda, em minha mente todas as noites, o sol em casa está congelado. Estou encharcado de suor e lágrimas. Ainda estou em Bagdá, um prisioneiro de medos. Bagdá, flocos de neve caem como memórias, enquanto me gelam até os ossos. Meu irmão me chama de assassino, meu pai diz que estou sozinho. Todo mundo vê outra pessoa, eles acham que eu perdi meu caminho. Mas no fundo desse coração dolorido, apenas um lugar pra ficar. Bagdá, 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 Bagdá. Todo verão, quando chove, esses sons começam a tocar. Noites encharcadas de suor e lutas estrondosas me puxam de volta ao cinza. Com medo de falar sobre esses demônios, minha sanidade é um fio. Às vezes parece que foi ontem, às vezes tudo foi dito. Bagdá, Bagdá.
Out on the porch with a glass in my hand, I watch the sunset paint this tired land. It used to be hard work brought home bread. Now folks just sit and let the dreams go dead. Oh, we're drifting away from what's real, lost in the noise of how it feels. What this world needs is a little more grit to stand up tall and fight for it. Too many missing chromosomes can't find their way home, while blue-haired shadows dance in the twilight gloom. Yeah, we're longing for reason in a sea of doubt. Let's bring back the heart and figure it out. Remember when laughter rang loud through these fields? Now we're lost in opinions, like we've got no shields. Folks used to sweat under that old sun's glow. Now they're glued to screens where kindness won't grow. Oh, I'm yearning for days when truth was gold, not wrapped in confusion or stories we told. What this world needs is a little more grit to stand up tall and fight for it. Too many missing chromosomes can't find their way home, while blue-haired shadows dance in the twilight gloom. Yeah, we're longing for reason in a sea of doubt. Let's bring back the heart and figure it out. Your mask and step into light. We all bleed red when we fight for what's right. Let's build bridges instead of walls, find common ground where love never falls. What this world needs is a little more grit to stand up tall and fight for it. Too many missing chromosomes can't find their way home, while blue-haired shadows dance in the twilight gloom. Yeah, we're longing for reason in a sea of doubt. Let's bring back the heart and figure it out. So raise your voice if you feel but this world needs stars for me and you. So take off your mask and step into light. We all bleed red when we fight for what's right. Let's build bridges instead of walls. Find common ground where love never falls.
No, Mike, not bad. A bad link. Bad loony leftists. Brazil doesn't have a space program. So, and guess who puts the satellites into space for their internet? Who did? Well, Elon Musk. So now they have to rely on China for their internet access, which means it ain't going to get any better than this. That's what happens when you're an idiot. But tonight I just wanted to, I've got a couple books. One's already out. One will be out shortly, probably Monday. It's still in editing. Got to come up with a cover yet. But I wanted to take you through these books because, well, the first book is titled The American Left from Liberalism to Despotism. Now, I like this book not because of the content, although the content's good. I like it just because the reaction that the loony from the loony left, just the book cover, drives them crazy. But they'll come back with, I'm not reading that, or I'm not buying that. I didn't put it there so you could buy it or read it. I put it there because I knew it would trigger you. If you actually read, I wouldn't be, putting it there because you'd already know. I wouldn't be trying to trigger you. Yeah, there must be a lag. But anyway, it's not going to get any better because, well, people are stupid. So when your world is run by stupid people, this is what happens. And it's against the law to shoot him, so. But these two books just emphasize the fact that China and Russia aren't our real enemies. Your enemy is living right next door to you. It's that dude with the blue hair who thinks you should pay for his college loans. Yeah, that's your enemy. The idiot that's setting fire to Teslas all of a sudden, who used to love Teslas. Buy an electric car 10 years ago. Today, they're setting fire to them. So I guess it wasn't about the environment because I get the battery fumes aren't really good for the environment, are they? Anyway, back to what I was doing. What I wanted to do was give you a summary of the chapters of these books and give you an idea of what's in them. Because I found them quite educational. See, I agree with like Grumpy and stuff on common sense. I put out books to give knowledge to the common sense. And the left seem to hate common sense. But then again, common sense these days is so rare, it could be considered a superpower. So, chapter 1. This one's about liberalism in American politics emerged as a response to progressivism, first defined in 1912 to differentiate Woodrow Wilson from Theodore Roosevelt. This new liberalism aimed for a welfare state to secure freedoms, which is the government's job, contrasting with classical liberalism's focus on limited government and individual rights, which would make most of us liberal, classic liberals. Unlike the earlier progressive movement, which was predominantly middle class and white, liberalism sought a more inclusive society. Just not blacks or Chinese or Intellectually, liberals rejected progressive views in philosophy, psychology, and economics. They embraced scientific methods to address societal issues, acknowledged the importance of psychoanalysis for personal balance, and advocated for government-private sector cooperation to ensure equitable wealth distribution. This led to a new social contract where the populace granted power to the government in exchange for rights, as articulated by Franklin D. Roosevelt. The New Deal exemplified liberal economic and political ideas, with government intervention seen as essential for recovery from the Great Depression. This period saw the establishment of regulatory agencies and programs aimed at redistributing wealth to disadvantaged groups, significantly expanding the federal government's role. Post-World War II, a liberal consensus emerged among Democrats and Republicans supporting the welfare state domestically while opposing communism abroad. Eisenhower's Republicans accepted the New Deal, while Democrats criticized consumerism and focused on poverty, alleviation, and civil rights under Kennedy and Johnson, using national prosperity to aid those less fortunate. So basically, we would have been classic liberals. I still consider myself a classic liberal, like Founders classic liberal. Small government, and natural rights, individual rights, rights to life, liberty, and property. That's how far back my liberalism goes. Of course, I have books on that too. Maybe I'll summarize some of those for you too. Chapter 2, Radical Philosophy, Psychology, and Sociology. In Chapter 2, I discussed the emergence of radical thought as a response to the limitations of liberalism. Radicals criticized liberalism for abandoning absolute truths and failing to address social issues effectively, particularly after the failures of communism and the atrocities of Stalinism. Existentialists called for a return to fundamental questions about human existence, emphasizing the importance of acknowledging mortality in decision-making. Critical theorists from the Frankfurt School argued that liberalism's denial of absolutes led to societal inequalities and that philosophy must critique societal structures to prevent oppression. They highlighted the patriarchal, racist, and sexist nature of American society. In psychology, third force psychologists like Maslow and Goodman rejected Freud's value-neutral approach. Asserting that merely discussing repression was insufficient, they believed action was necessary to overcome societal repression, which they argued fostered a fascist personality. Goodman proposed radical changes to combat consumerism, including systemic reforms for race integration, urban self-sufficiency, ecological conservation, and sexual liberation. Sociologist C. Wright Mills critiqued the power elite in America, arguing that corporate interests co-opted academia and media, stifling genuine democratic engagement. He called for a new proletariat made up of intellectuals and marginalized groups to challenge this elite. Mills and Marcuse, if you've ever heard any of my videos on critical race theory, you know Marcuse, emphasized the importance of solidarity among diverse groups and supported counterculture movements as part of the revolutionary effort. So basically, this is the beginning of critical race theory. Well, back then it was called critical theory. Then it became critical legal theory, and then it became critical race theory. And they're all theories. There's no evidence that any of what they say is true. None. Like, according to critical race theory, you can be a racist and not know you're a racist. Well, then how the fuck can I be a racist if I don't know? How can I fight racism I don't even know exists? Dummies. In Chapter 3. In the early 20th century, liberals advocated for a pluralistic, colorblind society, asserting no scientific differences between races. However, they implemented segregation policies to manage the influx of African Americans into northern cities, employing discriminatory practices like redlining and steering. While liberals sought to improve economic conditions for blacks, they opposed affirmative action. The civil rights movement revealed divides within the black community, particularly between northern and southern blacks and among different socioeconomic classes. Joseph H. Jackson, representing the black bourgeoisie, favored civil obedience and legal change over Martin Luther King Jr.'s nonviolent protests, believing that racial integrity should be maintained. In contrast, King envisioned a racially integrated society and advocated for affirmative action and reparative measures to address systemic inequalities. Tensions between Jackson and King culminated in a schism at the 1960 National Baptist Convention. King faced criticism from younger leaders like Malcolm X and Stokely Carmichael, who pushed for a more radical approach to combat systemic racism and emphasized black solidarity against perceived white oppression. By the late 1960s, King shifted left politically, adopting ideas of systemic racism and advocating for a black theology of liberation. This ideological evolution led to increased class divides within the black community, despite some socioeconomic advancements, as issues like family instability and dependency also rose. If you want to see what happened to the black, they were actually more prosperous in the 1950s and 60s under Jim Crow, because there was no welfare state giving, incentivizing single-parent homes. If that ain't around, chances are, boy, the sun's going to act up. Now, Chapter 4 covers the student New Left. The student New Left emerged as a rebellion among white middle-class youth against perceived liberal hypocrisy regarding race, class, and gender during the 1960s. Disillusioned by their liberal upbringing and seeking meaning, many turned to the alternative philosophies and political activism, notably in support of civil rights movement. Tom Hayden, a leader of the Students for a Democratic Society, SDS, America isn't a democracy, by the way, emphasized addressing the alienation felt by young people trapped in corporate culture. As students engaged in civil rights protests in the South, they challenged the loco parentis system at universities, viewing it as an extension of societal oppression. SDS also became a key player in the anti-Vietnam War movement. Influenced by C. Wright Mills, radicals sought to name the system, to hold accountable those responsible for corporate-driven policies. They advocated for white youth to recognize their own oppression while grappling with their guilt over racial injustices. The 1968 Democratic National Convention saw young radicals protesting against the Vietnam War, but their efforts were met with police resistance and a lack of support from mainstream America, leading them to adopt more extreme views. Herbert Marcuse, remember that name, suggested censorship of right-wing speech to promote leftist ideas, contributing to the formation of the Weather Underground, which engaged in domestic bombings, domestic terrorism. As radicals entered academia, they fostered identity politics and established programs focused on marginalized groups. The Democratic Party shifted its strategy post-1968, aiming to connect with elite activists over traditional working-class voters. The McGovern-Fraser Commission introduced delegate quotas based on oppression levels, resulting in a more radical party leadership that alienated middle-class voters. Despite McGovern's loss in the nomination, his appeals to non-white voters reshaped the party's direction. By 1974, younger Democrats known as Watergate babies began prioritizing national identity issues over local concerns in Congress. Basically, it was the birth of identity politics. No more would people run on, well, Democrats, the Democratic Party, run on issues and money and prosperity. They were going to run on the color of your skin or your perceived oppression. Not today. If you're not in an oppressed group, they give you an out. I identify as. Well, I identify as a woman. Oh my God, you're oppressed. You're oppressed because they're not going to let you cut your if you're a minor, they're not going to let you cut your stuff off. So you're oppressed. You're not like fully oppressed. You're just kind of in that circle. There's two circles, and you're kind of outside that, but you're still oppressed. You're just not oppressed as the black trans over there. I write better than I speak. Now, Chapter 5, The Rise and Effects of Feminism. We're at stage 4 feminism. It went from, suffrage, and all that, which I agreed with, to, get out of the kitchen, get a job, to now they want women are equal to men. And now, today, level 4 feminism, we don't know if it's a man or not. Chapter 5 explores the emergence and impact of feminism, highlighting its evolution from the late 1950s to the 1980s. Betty Friedan's The Feminine Mystique articulated the dissatisfaction women felt with traditional roles, arguing for a societal shift to honor women's pursuits of careers. Radical feminists emerged, viewing women as oppressed by a patriarchal system, and advocated for conscious raising sessions to unify women against this oppression. This chapter discusses the debate within feminism, noting that many women sought freedom from traditional roles rather than a complete rejection of gender. Key figures like Gloria Steinem called for economic independence and reproductive rights, while initiatives like no-fault divorce transformed family dynamics, often benefiting elite women at the expense of middle and lower-class women. Feminism gained traction in government, leading to the significant legislation like Title IX and the Equal Rights Amendment, ERA, although opposition from figures like Phyllis Schlafly stymied some efforts. As more women joined the workforce, societal changes included delayed marriage and increased single motherhood, creating a class divide and reshaping family structures. Ultimately, the chapter reveals that while feminism advanced women's rights, it also led to complex socio-economic challenges within society. So, yeah. And they're still complaining. Let's take a look at the wage gap. If there were actually a wage gap, why wouldn't men hire more women? Because he could pay them less, right? Could it be just women don't come to work as often and don't go into the higher paying muscular trades? Because, well, let's face it, most women don't have the frickin' muscles. Chapter 6, Origins of the Sexual Revolution. This chapter explores the evolution of sexual attitudes, beginning with Sigmund Freud's notion that sexual repression is essential for civilization. Liberals embraced a permissive society while still advocating for some sexual restraint. In contrast, radicals like Wilhelm Reich argued that repression led to neurosis and encouraged sexual exploration among children, promoting a work democracy based on personal fulfillment. And you wonder why I don't like loony leftists. The legal landscape shifted as the Supreme Court relaxed obscenity definitions, allowing sexual explicit materials to permeate pop culture in the 1960s and 70s. Landmark cases like Ross versus United States and Miller versus California established community-based standards for obscenity. The chapter also discusses the gay liberation movement, which emerged as a response to long-standing persecution and viewed homosexuality as a natural rather than immoral activists like Dennis Altman advocated for the recognition and respect of homosexual lifestyles. Finally, transgenderism is examined, tracing its roots to the 1960s with John Money's theories on gender identity. Tensions arose between transgender claims and feminist perspectives, particularly regarding identity and government intervention in family dynamics. The chapter highlights how both movements challenged traditional views on gender and sexuality, leading to broader societal implications. And now we have this crap in our schools. So, again, if your kid isn't one of the victims that are discussed in the prior chapter, they'll just tell them you identify as. And then you're a victim. Nobody's chatting about the books or asking questions. 7:50, folks. Well, I prefer ebooks and audiobooks now, especially audiobooks, because while doing my research, I found out that 1 in 4 Americans, high school graduates, cannot read above a 6th grade level. 1 in 4. More than that can't read above 11th, and then you have the ones who can't read above an 11th grade level. That's why I do audiobooks. Chapter 7. Chapter 7 explores the influence of radicals in transforming institutions following Antonio Gramsci's concept of the long march through the institutions. Department of Education. Radicals infiltrated educational and bureaucratic systems, leveraging Great Society programs to empower marginalized groups. In education, they challenged traditional curricula, promoting awareness of oppression among students and encouraging anti-racist ideologies, often labeling all white individuals as racists. And if you're not racist, you are, because it's unconscious. In bureaucracy, radicals interpreted the 1964 Civil Rights Act in ways that contradicted its original intent, leading to the implementation of quotas and expanded entitlements for various victim groups beyond African Americans. They reshaped administrative law by prioritizing group interests over public interest, resulting in the creation of regulatory agencies with broad powers, staffed mainly by lawyers rather than experts in their respective fields. This chapter highlights the significant changes brought by radical ideologies in both education and government bureaucracy. I think we can see the impact of that in our schools, and again, 1 in 4. Chapter 8. Liberalism faced a crisis in the late 1960s and early 1970s, primarily due to the Great Society's expansive fiscal policies and new social regulations that hindered industrial productivity. This led to stagflation, prompting Nixon to implement price controls and remove the dollar from the gold standard, while establishing the petrodollar system to maintain the dollar's status as a global reserve currency. Neoliberalism arose from a consensus that liberal fiscal policies had failed. Key figures like John Rawls and Milton Friedman shaped this ideology. Rawls argued for protecting basic liberties and rewarding merit, while Friedman advocated for deregulation and free market principles as a means to foster societal harmony through individual pursuits of profit. Ronald Reagan embraced fusionism, merging various right-wing ideologies while enacting neoliberal policies such as reduced antitrust actions and support for global trade. Bill Clinton exemplified neoliberalism post-World Cold War by promoting globalization through NAFTA. George W. Bush continued these trends, leading to significant outsourcing and stagnant middle-class wages coupled with costly foreign wars. Outsourcing increased U.S. reliance on foreign nations, while immigration policies stirred public discontent. Bush's lengthy wars and the establishment of a surveillance state through the Patriot Act contributed to growing disillusionment with neoliberalism, culminating in the Great Recession of 2008, which revealed the disconnect between elites and conservative interests. I just go on to chapter, nobody's here, so. Chapter 9. If you have questions, feel free to ask. Chapter 9 discusses the evolution of identity politics and its implications in contemporary society. I think it actually started back further. It begins by defining identity politics as a framework that views individuals primarily as members of groups, emphasizing how rights and privileges are allocated based on identity rather than inherent citizenship. Critics argue that neoliberalism, despite its claims of benefiting the disadvantaged, has historically favored certain groups and perpetuated systemic inequalities. The chapter highlights the rise of globalism among critics of neoliberalism who seek to reform international institutions for the benefit of underdeveloped nations. It introduces concepts like Patricia Hill Collins' Matrix of Domination and Kimberly Crenshaw's intersectionality, advocating for preferential treatment for those at the intersection of multiple oppressed identities. The narrative shifts to the aftermath of the Great Recession, detailing how populist movements emerged in both political spectrums, Occupy Wall Street on the left and the Tea Party on the right. The left's push for big fiscal policy was influenced by modern monetary theory, while the right criticized corporate bailouts as a betrayal of free market principles. The chapter culminates in the Great Awakening, where neoliberal elites aligned with the populist left to maintain their authority amidst challenges from nationalist movements. Barack Obama's presidency is cited as a pivotal example of this shift, transitioning from neoliberal policies to embracing identity politics. Finally, it addresses the backlash against Trump's presidency, highlighting how the COVID-19 pandemic and social unrest following George Floyd's death were utilized to suppress dissent and promote identity politics across government and corporate policies. See, when you don't have a positive policy that you can point to that's worked, identity, you can always go identity politics. You're a racist. You're a Nazi. You're a fascist. I'm watching my phone here to make sure this is still working okay. There's 11 chapters in this book. And none of them say anything really good about the left. Except, like, there wasn't really a right or left back, when I would be considered a classic liberal, like the founding, like Federalist Papers liberal. But that changed when people found out that, wait a minute, I can vote myself money from the public coffers. That's truly when the republic dies. And that'll be in the next book. Chapter 10. This chapter critiques identity politics, arguing that it creates a binary distinction between dominant white males and oppressed victim classes, while claiming to transcend both binaries. It posits that critical race theory views moral impartiality as racism and undermines foundational Western principles like individual freedoms and due process. Identity politics fosters a victim mentality, leading some whites to adopt the role of racial saviors. If I get called racist by one more person whiter than I am. Anyway, the chapter also addresses systemic racism, suggesting that it fosters a class of people who search for oppression without concrete examples, often benefiting middle and upper class minorities rather than the lower class communities they claim to represent. Jesse Smollett. This has resulted in inefficiencies in various systems, including education and infrastructure, alongside rising crime rates and declining social well-being. To move forward, the chapter advocates for conservatives to critique existing institutions and reestablish the concept of equal citizenship under the law. It encourages the revival of Christian and natural law traditions at the local level and the formation of independent communities. Finally, it emphasizes that conservatives should confidently defend their rights without feeling the need to apologize for their identity. I don't apologize for my identity. I haven't done anything wrong. You have three basic rights that I don't fuck with. You have the right to life. I won't kill you unless you make me. You have the right to liberty. I don't give a shit what you do, just don't fuck with me. And you have the right to property. Straight from John Locke, which I like. Life, liberty, and property. Doesn't mean you can't do it. I mean, you can't put a nuclear waste dump on your property, but for the most part, do what you want with it. But right, life, liberty, and property. I'm good with that. Other people who are too lazy to get the property part want to take yours or part of yours because they can't get it themselves. If you gave some of these idiots $1 million right now, just gave it to them, be gone in a month. Why? If they knew how to handle fucking money, they'd have $1 million. But then again, I can't say that. But I don't have $1 million. Never started with. Good. Now, this book isn't out yet. The next book isn't out yet, but I really like this one because it really tells you who your enemies are. And there's a lot of them out there. This one's titled Dismantling the Republic, the role of progressive elites in America's descent into tribalism. Why do they want us like acting like tribes? Tribes are easier to control. Chapter 1, The Origins and Challenges of Citizenship. It's really a book about citizenship and how they're trying to take it away. Citizenship, defined as the ability to influence laws and societal structures, emerged in an ancient Greece around the 8th century BC following the collapse of the Messenian civilization. Initially oligarchic, Athenian citizenship evolved by the 5th century to include all free citizens born to two citizen parents, enabling them to vote, serve on juries, and manage tax revenues. Challenges to citizenship include the debate over equality versus freedom, where historical philosophers noted that achieving equality necessitates government coercion. Modern interpretations are shifting towards equity, which requires even greater intervention. Equity means equality of outcome, which is impossible. The wealth generated from property rights led to leisure but also excess among citizens. The Romans, learning from these challenges, established checks on power through political institutions to prevent abuses seen in Athenian democracy. As Rome expanded, it provided benefits but also diluted a common identity among its diverse population. By the 5th century AD, a breakdown of Roman citizenship occurred as elites became disengaged from common interests. In contemporary society, citizenship faces threats from both pre-modern and post-modern forces. Pre-modern challenges include tribal politics based on race, erosion of borders for national identity, and the decline of a stable middle class. Postmodern threats involve the rise of unelected bureaucracies, DEA, attempts to transform foundational institutions for utopian ideals, and globalist movements that undermine national sovereignty. So basically, the left are taking away your citizen or diluting your citizenship by telling everyone that you're racist, that you're holding people down. Open borders, because if you can come across the border, what's the sense of being a citizen? And they give you free shit when you come across the border. You get a free phone, I've never had the government give me a free phone. Well, they did when I was in Afghanistan. I got a phone, but it didn't, Anyway, Chapter 2, The Importance of the Middle Class. This chapter emphasizes the crucial role of the middle class in maintaining a healthy democracy in society. It outlines that a robust middle class fosters independence and self-sufficiency, preventing both the wealthy from becoming disconnected from community needs and the poor from excessive dependence on wealth or state support. The middle class historically held equal rights in governance and military service and land ownership, combining physical labor with decision-making skills. However, the chapter highlights the erosion of the middle class, evidenced by stagnant incomes, declining home ownership, and diminishing wealth. This decline has led to feelings of economic insecurity among Americans, delaying major life milestones such as marriage and home buying. Additionally, government welfare programs are criticized for promoting dependency rather than independence. This chapter warns that neglecting the middle class undermines its ability to act as a check on government power, which is essential for a prosperous society. Using California as a case study, it illustrates how prosperity can mask the struggles of the middle class, leading to high taxes and significant poverty rates. Overall, the chapter argues for a renewed recognition of the middle class's importance in sustaining democracy and societal well-being. I got news for you. Big corporations, yes, they hire a lot of people, but they don't hire as many as smaller businesses, like gyms. I think Jimmy has, one or two people working for him? Still, there are more small companies out there. Well, there were. Thanks to COVID, there aren't quite as many as there were. Thanks to government overreach, which I actually talk about in this book as well, government overreach and COVID. Chapter 3 discusses the importance of borders. Borders have historically defined spaces for shared customs and governance, symbolizing humility by limiting authority. As societies expand, they face challenges integrating diverse populations. The Roman Empire and the United States both struggled with assimilation as their population became more varied. Talks about U.S. immigration history. America has traditionally welcomed legal immigration due to vast unpopulated lands and the expectation of cultural assimilation. The identity of being American is rooted in commitment to natural principles rather than lineage, national principles rather than lineage, blood, skin color. However, immigration policies shifted in the 1950s and 1960s to prioritize diversity over assimilation criteria, leading to a more flexible understanding of legal status. Who supports illegal immigration? Four main groups benefit from illegal immigration. Foreign governments that gain remittances, which is people who work in the States and send money home instead of spending it in the United States. Corporations and citizens seeking cheap labor. The Democratic Party, aiming to secure votes through welfare for immigrants, and ethnic lobbies advocating for historical justice. Additionally, many U.S. jurisdictions have declared themselves sanctuary cities, challenging federal immigration laws and highlighting vested interest and protecting illegal immigration. Throughout the book, I don't know if it talks about it, it might in chapter 4, but how they changed the language. It went from illegal alien to illegal immigrant to undocumented immigrant. Now it's just immigrant. Now it's migrant. Now it's illegal. Chapter 4. This chapter explores the concept of tribalism, which refers to individuals identifying more with their ethnic or racial groups than with national citizenship, undermining meritocracy and shared ideals. The United States has historically struggled to extend equality to all citizens, but has been more successful than many nations in incorporating diverse races into its citizenship model. However, modern identity politics contradicts the civil rights movement's vision of judging individuals by character rather than race, with a growing emphasis on special rights for non-majority groups, like affirmative action, reverse discrimination, if you want my opinion, which goes against the 1964 Civil Rights Act. Being judged by your race, color, creed, gender. Since the 1960s, extremist views have shifted the focus from achieving equality to demanding special privileges for minority groups. And when those special privileges are taken away, once you get used to them, it just seems like you're being oppressed. This shift has led to the adoption of Marxist framework of oppressor versus oppressed, now based on race. The practical implication of tribalism are concerning. Prioritizing racial identity can result in racial targeting, distract from essential societal functions, and erode meritocracy in areas like education and employment, fostering a culture of victimization. They think they're victims because they're not getting special privileges. Why'd you hire that white guy over me? Well, he's more qualified. Why'd you hire that white pilot over me? Well, he's flown like 50,000 fucking missions over Iraq. There's 7 chapters in this book. Chapter 5. Chapter 5 discusses the evolution and implications of bureaucracy in both world and American history, emphasizing the rise of the deep state and its threat to citizenship. It outlines 3 key stages of bureaucratic intrusion in American politics. The progressive era's shift to bureaucratic governance for social equality, the expansion of federal agencies during the Great Depression and World War II, and the creation of agencies in the 1960s aimed at assisting marginalized groups, which didn't work out so well if you look at the outcome today. The chapter highlights how federal agencies wield significant power with minimal accountability, exemplified by actions from the Environmental Protection Agency and the IRS under Lois Lerner. It also addresses the current deep state, linking it to President Eisenhower's warning about the military-industrial complex and illustrating its reach through the controversial Mueller investigation into alleged Russian collusion during the 2016 election. Furthermore, it discusses the politicization of military officers who have publicly criticized President Trump, violating military conduct codes. Overall, the chapter raises concerns about unaccountable bureaucrats and their influence over democratic processes. Basically, and actually I asked this question in there, maybe someone could tell me how all these agencies, the EPA, FDA, USDA, they all have SWAT teams. None of them have law enforcement authority. Why do you need a fucking SWAT team? In Chapter 6, this chapter discusses the tension between evolutionary theory and constitutional governance, tracing its roots to ancient Greece and its resurgence during the progressive movement in the late 19th century. Progressives argued for a departure from traditional laws and constitutions, believing that as society evolves, so too should governance. They criticized the Constitution's checks and balances as obstacles to their vision of progress. Key progressive proposals include abolishing the Electoral College to favor a national popular vote, ending the Senate filibuster to push through legislation with narrow majorities, and court packing to ensure Supreme Court justices. They also aim to add states like D.C. and Puerto Rico to bolster their legislative power, nationalize voting laws contrary to state authority, and alter Senate representation based on population rather than statehood. Progressives have redefined nullification in selective contexts, supporting sanctuary cities for immigrations while opposing similar measures for gun rights. They have politicized impeachment, using it as a tool against presidents like Donald Trump, which undermine its original purpose. Overall, these actions suggest a departure from constitutional principles, threatening the stability of citizenship itself. Chapter 7. This chapter discusses the historical context and challenges of globalism, particularly an impact on American citizenship. It begins by highlighting an elite push to surrender U.S. sovereignty to global governance, referencing historical figures like Socrates and Alexander the Great, who advocated for cosmopolitanism. The text notes that while globalization has led to some economic and cultural westernization, it has not achieved political uniformity. The chapter addresses the difficulties globalists face with rogue nations that resist giving up sovereignty, citing failures of the League of Nations and the United Nations in preventing aggression from countries like Germany and China. It argues that temporary alliances among sovereign nations are more effective for defense than global governance. Additionally, it critiques how globalization undermines constitutional foreign policy, pointing out that agreements like the Iran deal and Paris Climate Accord bypassed Senate ratification requirements. The influence of elite organizations such as the World Economic Forum is also discussed, emphasizing their agenda to promote a cosmopolitan approach that often disregards national legislatures. Finally, the chapter outlines significant challenges to American citizenship, including the decline of the middle class, loss of borders and identity, growth of the administrative state, and movements toward global governments. Despite these challenges, it expresses hope as long as Americans value the Constitution and citizenship. So basically, y'all got to get off your asses and start fighting. And when I say fighting, I don't mean go out and start setting fire to Teslas. Don't stoop down to those idiots' level. When I say fight, get into government. Buy the book and actually learn about government. Buy a lot of my books. I have one on the Federalist Papers. I have one on, of course, the one I was talking about with the left. This one here, which will be out on Monday. I have one on Donald Trump, his first administration. I want to do one on capitalism too, but I think before that I'm going to finish my self-defense book. No, I'll get to that in a bit. But anyway, now on with more like modern stuff, shit that's actually going on. You go over on Threads. I'm on Threads again, by the way, because you can pick individually where people can comment, where they can't. Unlike other apps where you have to just block everybody, I can pick and choose. So I leave one open so they can come over and cry. And they do. They come over and cry. I'm fine with that. Cry all you want. But I go over on Threads and I just look at the loony left. It's like a loony leftist cry fest, or it's where they all go to go suck each other off, I guess. Anyway, they're over there throwing populist bombs like you wouldn't believe. Now, I know what you're saying. What's a populist bomb? Well, a populist bomb is basically where they try to scare everybody as dumb as they are into believing that Donald Trump and Elon Musk are going to take away Medicaid and Medicare, and he's going to steal your Social Security number. I guess because the richest man in the world needs to get a credit card in your fucking name or something. If he really wanted your Social Security number, he has a full team of hackers that could get it probably through your email or IP address. That's how stupid you people are. But what a populist bomb is, they'll use race, they'll use gender, they'll use whatever, or age, Social Security, to tell you that the conservatives are holding you down. They're going to take your Social Security. They're going to take your Medicare. They're going to take your Medicaid. Do you know what's going to take your Medicare and Medicaid? When the Democrats bankrupt the fucking country. That's what's going to take it. Oh, hold on. See, they need this stuff because they don't have any success to point to. Not since Bill Clinton balanced the budget. I'll give Clinton that. He balanced the budget. And as far as he shouldn't have lied about it. Oh, yeah, I got a blowjob in a freaking Oval Office. Have you ever gotten one in the Oval Office? So I didn't really care about that. It's basically it's military policies that just drove me nuts. But, yeah, and you're going to hear it for the next 4 years. Probably beyond 4 years. Because I think J.D. Vance will probably be your next presidential candidate. I hope he is. He don't take no shit either. Now we have, moving along, we have this other douche nozzle, which Grumpy Farmer and I saw him on another podcast, the Tennessee, whatever, some fucking idiot who dresses like a 80s rock star, thinks he can play guitar, but anyway, his name, he calls himself Hawk. Now the guy looks like, you remember that movie, I can't remember, it's a Steven Seagal movie, where he walks into the bar, and the bartender, like, I can't remember the name of the movie. Out for Justice, I think it was. Anybody seen Jimmy? Anyway, he looks like that guy, the bartender behind the bar in the first fight there. But he does these videos. Republicans are stupid. Dude. Oh, hold on. I got a picture of him. Dude. You wear a fucking mullet. It's 2025. Does anybody else think he kind of looks like a middle-aged lesbian woman? Anyway, yes, he does these videos. Republicans are stupid. So I post my books to him. Just to, like, if you're going to call people stupid, you better have a book to throw back, dude. And it better be good. But he makes stupid videos with that mullet and plastic teeth. That's his... And people, oh my God, you're such a genius. Well, if he's a genius, how stupid do you have to be? You must be one of them that can't read above a 6th grade level. Just got word that Trump is shutting down USAID. Now, I have a question about... I guess it's going to be run by through the Department of State. And of course, the leftists are losing their minds. And I'll tell you why they're losing their minds. And it'll work itself out when you see the midterms. Check campaign finance during the midterms. Check it for the last midterm. Just go to the last midterm. You don't have to go back that far. And then this midterm, and see how much money that these campaigns are getting now that USAID is run through the State Department. I bet they drop quite substantially. Because basically USAID, money laundering, that's all it was. Putting money, and now when they say money laundering, they would send money to foreign countries because you got to get it out of the country to launder it. They would put it through like a foreign bank account and then send it back. Usually, probably, and I'm going to say it's probably a 3-letter organization doing it. I talk about some of the shit that the CIA has pulled in that book too. But yes, I bet you they're not going to be getting as much money for their campaigns now that USAID is being run by Marco Rubio. Just spitballing here, just thinking outside the box. Then, of course, they're over on Threads complaining about those poor immigrants didn't get due process. So I found a video on YouTube today. I'm not going to show the video because I get in trouble for that. The copyright, they take down my live streams. But got access to the prison. I don't know how I did it. It's in El Salvador? Not El Salvador. Yeah, I can't remember. Anyway, you got access to the prison. And it's a supermax prison. They don't play no games. You don't have civil rights here. But he got access, and the radical leftists were screaming, "Oh my God, they didn't get due process." Well, they do, because when they arrive, they get to see a judge who speaks Spanish. And then they're sentenced. They're sentenced here. They're just deported from the United States. They're sentenced to prison here. So they get due process in a Spanish-speaking country because, well, they speak Spanish. And that's how we know they're illegal, because they speak Spanish. Like when we ask for an ID and they no habla or no fala. That's Portuguese. Fala is Portuguese. Then who else watched the DOGE interview with Elon and his crack computer team? I thought it was quite interesting that, well, they were talking about the outdated computer systems, which most of us who've worked for the government knew about. Like, you know, still, I'm surprised they're still not using those big floppy disks. But the IRS has 40,000 IT people just for the computers because they have so many different operating systems. And did you hear what they said about the federal retirement system that I had to go through? They are right. You have to go through a class. That's how much bureaucracy there is just to retire. It hasn't changed since 1952. So when it first opened, again, bureaucracy. We're getting rid of some of the bureaucracy because I guess today Donald Trump fired 30,000 CDC, HHS, and FDA employees. So, and I asked this in the book too, why do all these agencies have SWAT teams? Get rid of the SWAT teams. Now, do you really believe CDC has 30,000 doctors? Of course not. They're people who do paperwork because they make paperwork. If you want to get a job in government, think up a new piece of paper that someone's going to need to fill out, and you're going to have to process that piece of paper, and that could take time in between, coffee breaks and holidays and all that good stuff. Because you can't fill out that email because you're so busy. Take, for instance, the Department of Education, which I guess is going to be shut down. I hope it is. Then maybe people will start learning to read and write again instead of, their phony pronouns and everybody's fucking racist. But take the Department of Education right now. Less than 2% of that staff, and I don't know how many people are on that staff or were on that staff, there's fewer now, were teachers. They did not institute curriculum policy at all. They just handed out money to places like California, who will groom and castrate your kid behind your back, or take your kid if you don't do it. Don't do it when they ask. Yeah. Most of them were administrators, people who filed paperwork. And if there wasn't enough paperwork to file, they'll make one. That's how you get so much paperwork. Got to have something to do, or else you're not going to get paid. That's why we have a big government. It's not that we need a big government like that. It's just people need jobs. Look at Biden's employment record. More people worked for the government at one time than worked for private companies. Now I got to talk about the elephant in the room, the chat session with Trump and Hegseth. Now I'm trying to figure out, because I listened or read part of it, and nowhere in there does it say that's classified. There's a classifying authority that, and President Trump is it. President Trump just go, it's declassified, and it'd be declassified. Half of the dickheads that read that don't even know what an FA-18 is. Didn't mention locations. Didn't mention, what time are we talking here? Are we talking local time? Are we talking like frickin'? But anyway, I have questions. First of all, how did that idiot's number get put into that group? Now, they recycle phones, but it was Walls. It was Walls who put him into the chat. Suspicious? Walls is a Biden holdover. So, now I'm not saying anything. I'm just thinking out loud. Not making accusations. And of course, over on Threads and that, the loony lefter. What? Let's hear about her emails now. So basically, what you're doing is you're insinuating that yes, she was guilty and should have gone to prison. Gotcha. They do realize they're just painting her as guilty, right? Of course, she did also destroy evidence, and she committed perjury. But Republicans are stupid. But I'm also working on a few more projects. I'm working on a book on self-defense. It's not a full-grown. I already did the full-blown karate book. This is, karate is a lifestyle. Self-defense is something you need, like, if you're not into karate, which fine. But this book will just be quick stuff you can pick up: punching, kicking, palm heels, mentality, situational awareness, things like that. And I also want to do a book on the political history of Brazil, because if you read about the political history of Brazil, you're going to see some similarities about what's going on in America. It's just Brazil's a lot older, and they've only had a democracy since 85. Weird. Do you know I'm actually older than the city I live in by about almost 10 years? Coffee. Hot black coffee. I'd like to do a book on leftist terrorism, but I can't keep up right now. I could go, I'd have to just it'd be like a daily diary. I guess they caught the Vegas fire bomber who was bombing Teslas and shooting at cameras, I guess, discharging a firearm into the air, which when bullets go up, they got to come down. If you look at his picture, he looks kind of Asian, like Chinese. Again, not being a conspiracy theorist, just thinking out loud, a communist who happens to look Chinese. I don't know. But, and I threw this video in just to kind of top off what I was talking about because it's hilarious. It's an older video. It's from 2024. But I have to, Hawk, are these the geniuses, the mental giants that you're talking about?
You know what's a fucking crime? To have a fucking Trump ban sign.
Oh my God.
In the main line.
I can't believe you said that. What is wrong with you?
Oh, what is that? Oh my God.
What is that?
Oh my God.
Well, that's just great. What happened?
Oh my God. Ah!
What?
These fucking people! They're fucking assholes!
I have to get to work. Don't tell me you got a flat.
Look what they did!
Oh, boy.
Fucking assholes!
Well.
Oh, well.
Damn, an imbecile. Like the dumbest motherfucker that ever lived. Everybody knows you never go full retard. You went full retard, man. Never go full retard.
Yeah, the loony left, but Republicans are stupid. Just ask Hawk, the guy with the mullet. But, what time is it? It's been about an hour. Anybody else got anything they want to talk about? There were a few people in here, but nobody ever says anything because, I don't know, maybe they know they'll be destroyed. But yeah, I think I finally got the notes thing figured out, so I can actually put talking points up, like an outline on the side of my computer so I can talk. I don't do like I did for the book, the summaries. I summarized each chapter, but generally I just put up an outline and I talk from the outline. Let me check, see if maybe somebody got one like. Could have been my wife was in here. Someone gave me a like. Cool. It pushes the algorithm a little bit. I'm just trying to sell, well, I'm trying to be educational. The books are educational. Also, when you die, you're just going to leave a foul smell. When I die, I'm going to have books out there with my name on it, talking about the current state of the country, which, by the way, sucks. Well, I live in Brazil, but my favorite, another thing that loony left love to do, they see where I live, Brazil, and they have no idea that I can vote in national elections. Oh, excuse me. So I love, and when they do that, I'll start talking to them in Portuguese on purpose, and I'll say, "Go Trump." Oh, now you don't like immigrants. Just, is it because I'm white? I got a book on that too, on the CRT, and I also have another book on how the left hijacked the civil rights movement by adding all these other people, mentally ill people. I have papers on, written a lot of papers on the loony left. Like, there's one I wrote, source too, on why the left is so poorly educated but so thoroughly indoctrinated. They're not bright, but man, they can spew the talking points that those college professors put out to them, word for word, and I've heard them all myself. Well, nobody's in here. But yeah, I come up with book ideas, and I do an outline first. Sometimes my book ideas come from threads. I'll go over to threads and see, that's kind of a stupid thing to say. And then I'll get an outline together and start writing. Start researching. Generally online, because everything is at your fingertips, people. This is why I can't believe how many stupid people we have. But hold on, I might have some audiobooks. I keep my audio. I download my one of them. I got to download it, but it's like a hour-long download. Let's see, audiobooks. I like. Yeah, it's Reclaiming the Ideals. Got to get that one. The American Left. The one I was just summarizing. This is section 25.
Liberal approaches to race. The liberal agenda culminated in several landmark pieces of legislation
That's the audiobook.
aimed at dismantling institutional racism. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 prohibited discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin.
Which I believe
it marked a
affirmative
significant
action
victory for the civil
does.
rights movement. Similarly, the Voting Rights Act of 1965 aimed to eliminate barriers preventing African Americans from exercising their right to vote. These legislative efforts represented a culmination of decades-long struggles that sought to enforce constitutional principles regarding equality.
Yeah, from Democrats. Which I always love when they're mad at you. They will list every sin their party committed. Another one of my books, which maybe I'll summarize one night, Consent of the Governed. Let me just pick one randomly. Section 20.
Nations of National Identity, Exploring Federalist Papers 2 through 9. The Federalist Papers, a series of essays written in the late 18th century, represent a pivotal discussion surrounding the creation of a strong central government within the framework of the new United States Constitution. Of these, Federalist Papers 2 through 9 particularly emphasize the important advantages of a unified government.
Those are actually papers I wrote for college. Just a bunch of essays I wrote for college. Let's see, institutionalizing my book on CRT and
the craziness of unconscious bias. In contemporary discussions surrounding race relations, the concept of unconscious bias has emerged as a focal point for understanding societal dynamics. While it offers valuable insights into the subconscious attitudes that individuals may hold, the labeling of individuals as racist, based solely on assessments of unconscious bias, can be reductive and stigmatizing.
And stupid, because how do you fight racism if you don't even know about it? Right? It's made up, people. It's made up so they can be a victim. They want to be victims. Let's see. This is one of my karate books.
Angle of attack in Dragon Kenpo 2.0. In karate, the angle of attack is crucial. It determines how effective your strikes and defenses will be. Understanding this concept can elevate your skills and improve your performance.
By the way, I'm what they call a yandan. Just giving you like an insight in. I like that voice. His name is on Google Books for audiobooks. I use Marcus because he's about my age.
Moral conscience, natural law, and the debate on the existence of God. Introduction. The complex interplay between moral conscience, natural law, and the existence of God has been a central point of philosophical and theological discourse throughout history.
More of my essays for college. That one was on C.S. Lewis. If your kids have ever watched the Adventures of Narnia, I've never watched it, but that's a Christian movie, guys. It's just set in a fantasy. You know what I mean? It's talking about God. Oh, here's my chapter. Hold on, see if.
Chapter 6, Escalation and Intense Fighting.
Oh, that's be the next one.
Chapter 7, Aftermath and Consequences.
My book on
Short-term outcomes.
Ramadi.
The Second Battle of Ramadi, fought over a protracted period from late 2006 into 2007, marked a pivotal moment in the Iraq War, particularly in the Al-Anbar province. Author's experience in Ramadi. I volunteered for Iraq because they needed replacements. The military was actually calling up people in the inactive ready reserve. Those are the individuals who have fulfilled their contract, gotten out, and perhaps let themselves go a bit. Now they were being called back in to be sent to combat. That same year, I had just returned to the infantry from armor due to reorganization after 12 years. I had spent those years on the M1 Abrams tank, and prior to that, I had 5 years in the infantry. When I found out they were taking volunteers, I submitted my packet.
Yeah, I volunteered. Am I stupid or what? I volunteered for Iraq. There's my book on Trump. Just pick one randomly.
Economic Growth and Household Income during the Trump administration. The Trump administration, which spanned from January 2017 to January 2021, was marked by significant economic changes. One of the most notable accomplishments cited by the administration was the rise in median household income, which reached $61,372 in 2017.
These are all my papers. When when leftists say something stupid, I can usually find the counter to that. Here's my book on the rise and fall of
the founding of Rome, a tale of kingship and conflict. Introduction. The mythological narrative surrounding the founding of Rome is rich with themes of power, conflict, and divine intervention. Central to this tale are the figures of Numitor, Romulus, and Remus. After a series of usurpations and familial betrayals, Numitor is restored to his rightful kingship.
Yes, and the people, Star Trek people, think they just made up those names out of nowhere. If you watch, there's a planet called Romulus, and then there's a planet called Remus. Remus is not a good planet, and Romulus is where the Romulan Senate is. Sound familiar? Here's my training with firearms.
Lane training. Lane training is an outstanding tool if properly utilized. The training possibilities are only limited by your imagination and resources. Lanes can be used to facilitate training in all types of scenarios, from carjacking to home invasion. Lane training should be designed to fit your needs.
Yep.
Sit down and write down specific tasks you want to train on.
My firearms training book. Let's see. Then I have a book on socialism.
The Acolytes, Yugoslavia, and China.
Let's see.
Josip Broz Tito, architect of Yugoslav socialism and the fragility of post-war prosperity. Introduction. Josip Broz Tito, a pivotal figure in the history of Yugoslavia, emerged as the leader of the Communist National Liberation Army during World War II and subsequently ruled the country from 1944 until his death in 1980.
Looked prosperous until he died and they wanted to call in the loans because that's how he made it look prosperous. It was a shell game. You have to have a shell game with communism and socialism. See, I could have swore I had blood on, there it is, my other book on communism. I call socialism just communism light. Really, that's all it is.
The concept of democracy in the context of Chinese state governance, a leftist perspective. Introduction. A leftist attempted to paint China a beacon of democracy.
Yep.
Discourses around democracy are often complex and shaped by cultural, historical, and ideological context. In contemporary discussions, leftist scholars and political theorists have presented the People's Republic of China as a unique case study in democratic governance, arguing that the country's one-party regime, led by the Chinese Communist Party, CCP, can function as a democracy distinct from the Western liberal model. Critics, in contrast,
yes, if you only have one party, it's not a democracy. Stupid. Yeah, those are my books. Oh, foreign policy. I have one on foreign policy out here, too.
Chapter 20, Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan's confrontational approach towards the Soviet Union. In the context of the Cold War, the United States and the Soviet Union represented not only opposing ideologies, but also two superpowers embroiled in a global power struggle. Following the election of Ronald Reagan in 1980, the United States adopted a more confrontational stance toward the Soviet Union.
Yeah, I remember, yeah. One thing I liked, because I joined the Army or the military under Reagan, was we got all the money we wanted for training. We had blanks. We were blowing shit up and just doing whatever because of the Soviet Union. And for my Brazilian friends,
Capítulo 6. Escalar contra as posições inicialmente fortificadas.
Yes, I have books out
Capítulo 7. Consequência um quarto de libra, talvez uma 2006, para retornar ao Mississippi. Agora posso usar minhas esporas de combate e um Stetson de cavalaria. Fui premiado com um segundo conjunto de esporas de combate no Afeganistão.
Yeah, I've been to Afghanistan too. But I don't really have any cool stories about that except wanting to punch Colonel Daly in the fucking head. But other than that, yeah, it was a good time in Afghanistan. Pizza, a real Italian pizza, because we had to run to the German fob, and they had a pizza, real Italian pizzeria there. We got rocketed once the whole time in Afghanistan, so it was kind of easy gig. But, let's see, nobody's got any questions. I can call, you know. All right, well, I think if no questions, no chat, hold on. You just go over and you pick up those books for like $7.50 for your phone, your audiobooks for your phone, computer. You don't have to sit and listen to them all, you know, like the Trump book is like 24 hours long. You can bookmark them on your phone. Hold on, maybe I can show you this. Yeah, I got to shut this down for a second. Open it. Yeah, I send them to my Google. It's in Google Store. See, I'm opening Google Play. My phone looks like books, audiobooks. Let me see which one. Here we go. This is my institutionalizing division, the rise of racial fanaticism in American society. Oh, hold on.
The rise of racial fanaticism in American society. A critical look at critical race theory
yeah, you can get it on
in
your
America's
phone.
Classrooms. Racism has long been a profound issue in American society, deeply embedded with...
See, now the problem is there's more of a demand for racism than there's a supply. Most people just want to be left the fuck alone. Really. Maybe Hawk or somebody. Nope. Most people... Where the hell is Threads? You can get them on Kindle too, but there's no audiobooks on Kindle. You get ebooks. Yeah, these idiots are just nitpicking. Veterans slam J.D. Vance for disregarding a mess hall rule Marines learn on day one. He's wearing his hat at the table. Finland is teaching children in school how to recognize fake news and propaganda as part of critical thinking and civic responsibility. Some of this will seem very familiar. Yeah, but who dictates what's fake news? You guys keep saying Trump is Hitler. Obviously fake news, since his son-in-law is fucking Jewish, you idiots. Of course, Occupy Democrats, too. They're funny because nothing they say is true. But again, that paper on why the left is so poorly educated but so completely indoctrinated. Oh yeah, another lie. Remember January 6th. Your daily reminder that Officer Brian Sicknick would still be alive if it weren't for Donald Trump. I don't think Donald Trump gave him a stroke. Well, hold on, my production manager wants to go out. There you go, babies. All right, let me see if I'm trying to figure out. I think I've seen him before. Let's see. Gotta go to my channel. Hold on. See, I'm curious. I'm almost tempted to start classes based on these books. Veterans slam J.D. Vance for disregarding a mess hall rule Marines learned on day one. He's wearing his hat at the table. Finland is teaching children in school how to recognize fake news and propaganda as part of critical thinking and civic responsibility. Some of this will seem very familiar. Yeah, but who dictates what's fake news? You guys keep saying Trump is Hitler. Obviously fake news, since his son-in-law is fucking Jewish, you idiots. Of course, Occupy Democrats, too. They're funny because nothing they say is true. Yeah, I don't know who that guy is, but it doesn't matter. But yeah, I think I'm gonna. Cool. Yeah, I'm not gonna sit here put you guys through looking at my phone the whole time. So, you all have a good night. I'm gonna try and go over, maybe call my family or something. You all have a good night, and hope you learned something. Never stop learning. Once you stop learning, you might as well be dead. So, peace out, folks, and I hope you enjoyed the podcast.
Out on the porch with a glass in my hand, I watch the sunset paint this tired land. It used to be hard work brought home bread. Now folks just sit and let the dreams go dead. Oh, we're drifting away from what's real, lost in the noise of how it feels. What this world needs is a little more grit to stand up tall and fight for it. Too many missing chromosomes can't find their way home, while blue-haired shadows dance in the twilight gloom. Yeah, we're longing for reason in a sea of doubt. Let's bring back the heart and figure it out. Remember when laughter rang loud through these fields? Now we're lost in opinions, like we've got no shields. Folks used to sweat under that old sun's glow. Now they're glued to screens where kindness won't grow. Oh, yearning for days when truth was gold, not wrapped in confusion or stories we told. What this world needs is a little more grit, to stand up tall and fight for it. Too many missing chromosomes can't find their way home, while blue-haired shadows dance in the twilight gloom. Yeah, we're longing for reason in a sea of doubt. Let's bring back the heart and figure it out. But take off your mask and step into light. We all bleed red when we fight for what's right. Let's build bridges instead of walls, find common ground where love never falls. What this world needs is a little more grit, to stand up tall and fight for it. Too many missing chromosomes can't find their way home, while blue-haired shadows dance in the twilight gloom. Yeah, we're longing for reason in a sea of doubt. Let's bring back the heart and figure it out. So raise your voice if you feel like I do. Together we'll make our dreams come true. In every heartbeat lies hope anew. What this world needs starts with me and you.